I'm going to be honest with you. I usually, or at least at one point in my life, enjoyed listening to Bobby Slowik talk about and philosophize about football. I think he knows a lot. I think he's smart. I think he has good opinions and philosophies. But the problem is that this offense just continues to underperform. And now, when I watch a Bobby Slowik press conference, I feel like I'm reading a really well-written Hallmark card that's been handed to me by the guy who killed my brother. There's just I don't care how good the sentiment is. I don't have the appetite to hear from that messenger. And yet, I have to go try to win a football game with the guy who killed my brother. So Bobby Slowik had some good things to say in his press conference. I picked 4 of his answers that I found particularly interesting, and we'll roll on them from there. Thanks to BetUS for sponsoring the video. Right now at BetUS, you can get a 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit, 125% on your second and third deposits, all the way up to $2,000. Just go over to BetUS, use the offer code YouTube150, and get that 150% sign-up bonus. First reply I'm going to play here was when asked about the guys who made the Pro Bowl. Bobby Slowik talked about Joe Mixon and Laramie Tunsil, and had some really nice things to say about Laramie Tunsil. Just hold on a minute. I'll explain my feelings on it afterwards.
LT in particular for me is a guy like that really gets me fired up because I know I mentioned it to everyone here before. There's a period where I really thought LT was playing the best football that I've seen him play when I've been around him, and he's really continued that as we've kept going. His pass protection's always been really well done, and he's continued to excel in that regard. But then in the run game, he's really taken a step in what he's been able to do for us.
There was a stretch of several games where I think he really did take a step forward with the run blocking. I think that's kind of fallen by the wayside a little bit. The run blocking versus tougher, more physical defensive fronts is still non-existent across the board. But as far as Laramie Tunsil making the Pro Bowl, he's a very, very, very good pass protector. In complementing his run blocking, it kind of chafes against me because it feels like it's over the top complimenting of something that he should have been doing all along and still isn't as good at as he should be given his athleticism. And the other thing that's rubbed me the wrong way a little bit is the over the top gratitude that D'Amico and Bobby have expressed for Titus Howard being willing to play guard, because we know that Titus Howard thinks of himself as a tackle, and he's chafed against playing guard before. Look, Larry Allen, Bruce Matthews, those are 2 guys that were all-time great offensive linemen, and they played everywhere across the offensive line. Maybe I just don't remember it. Maybe those guys had big objections to it. I played against both those guys. I don't remember it. I just remember they were a pain in the ass wherever they lined up. And Larry Allen didn't play center. Bruce Matthews played center, guard, and tackle. Larry Allen played like all 4 positions except center. But they went where their team needed them. And it bothers me when this offensive line has been a huge and major issue as a group, that we're trying to heap praise on guys for doing what they're supposed to do. So, I expected Laramie Tunsil to make the Pro Bowl just because, again, pass protection is where it's at, and he is very, very, very good as a pass protector. But the entirety of the offensive operation this year has not a single bit of feel of the toughness and grit and physicality of genuinely good offenses, and especially at the offensive line. So there we are with that. Now, one of the big questions this week has been, hey, how much are they going to play the starters? How do you decide to do it? And Bobby had started off with an answer to this question saying, hey, that's D'Amico's choice ultimately. But I thought he had some good insight as to why there's not really one blueprint for how to handle situations like this.
I always go back to when I was growing up, when New England was, rolling, and it felt like almost every last game of the year with Belichick and Brady, they were having to make this decision. What are they going to do? And I felt like we all saw them do every which way. There were times I didn't think that I feel like they didn't play. I felt like there were times they played the whole game. I felt like there were times they played part of the game. So what that always resonated with me, no one has a better pulse of your team than the head coach. And I think the head coach is always going to approach it like, I'm going to do whatever I feel we need to do to play good football in the playoffs. And I'm sure D'Amico is taking the exact same approach.
Yeah, and look, for me, I get everything that Bobby said there, and I agree with it by and large. I think my biggest question has been, hey, how banged up is CJ, and how much do you gain from having him out there versus the prospect of perhaps getting CJ completely healthy or as close to completely healthy as possible, and maybe that being just the one thing that could spark and change things. Because I don't know, other than the Deontay Johnson relationship, which Bobby will talk about in a little bit, I don't know how much or what they're going to figure out in this last game versus the Titans that they haven't been able to figure out in the 17 previous weeks, including one opportunity versus this Tennessee Titans defensive line. But ultimately, it's up to D'Amico and how he feels about it right now, and especially coming off of a really just a bludgeoning by the Baltimore Ravens. Is the confidence that bad? Do they really need this shot in the arm? What's the risk of going out there and trying to give them a shot in the arm of confidence, and then if they get bludgeoned again for one quarter or 1.5 quarters versus the Titans? I don't know. Yes, they do need to get better at some things. I was carrying that banner saying, look, these guys got to play versus the Ravens because you got to figure out and get better versus good defenses. But I'm afraid that all of that daylight has been burned off. So we'll see. Ultimately, you just can't tell until you see whether it works out or not. And going back to CJ forming a relationship with Deontay Johnson, Bobby was asked about how do you get Deontay Johnson integrated into the offense?
I think if you don't start with almost, I don't want to say no expectations, but you just let him grow into it, and you let him and CJ grow into their rapport, and you grow into what routes and stems in our offense he likes and he's good at. I really think you can get off course pretty fast. So like we have a pretty good idea of what he's done in the past that he's shown on tape that he's really good at. And when he separates and where he enjoys, the ball, where he can go competitively catch it. And we're starting there. And then as we go integrating some of our stuff and kind of waiting for him and CJ to see what they like, what they don't like, and see where it goes.
Yeah, that makes sense. And again, if we're looking for how do you best put a patch on this offense or give it a shot in the arm, one is CJ being healthy and playing as free and loose and decisively as possible. And if there were any injuries that were affecting his throwing motion, maybe he's been able to recover from that despite having getting banged up pretty hard versus the Ravens. But the other big thing can be, man, if Deontay Johnson can step in and at the very least provide that separation and provide that threatening speed that Tank Dell provided, that first one half in the first part of the third quarter when Tank Dell was out there versus the Chiefs, man, that offense, it looked a little bit like what we were hoping for. They were able to take advantage of going against zone defenses or man defense, and Tank Dell having opportunities over the middle, downfield on that touchdown. And Deontay's certainly not going to be able to form the same relationship that Tank had with CJ, but it can be something that's better than whatever we had last week. I like John Mechie. I like Xavier Hutchinson. They don't provide that same sudden athleticism that Deontay Johnson can. And that's just it's a huge wild card. If they go out there, man, my expectations are pretty damn low right now for the offense. If I see some sparks out of Deontay Johnson in the first quarter or the first half versus the Titans, I'm gonna start leaning heavily into that. I know me. I know how I am. Despite my current grumpiness and pessimism, at heart, I'm an optimist. And I will latch onto that and hope that Deontay Johnson goes for 200 yards receiving in the wild card round. So we'll see. I'm open to it. Last one I'm going to play is Bobby talking about CJ finding that balance or that ability to subsist with poor pass protection or just in muddy NFL pockets.
We got to have solid, sound, firm protection. That's been our big emphasis and will continue to be our big emphasis, was our big emphasis out at practice today, that making sure the pocket and our protection is sound. And in particular, like there should, unless someone all-out blitzes us, there should not be free runners. And we should be able to pick up what people are bringing and feel good about hanging in there. But then the flip side is in the NFL, part of the battle these days is there are good pass rushers everywhere, every game, and the pocket is chaos. And I know we talked about this last year a lot. Like, one of the biggest adjustments CJ had to make in the NFL was handling the chaos of the pocket. And it's been too chaotic this year, without a doubt. But along the same lines, there's also times all of us would look, okay, what can I do to handle this better and help him better where the ball's just out faster? What concept did I call? I'm sure he's looking at it. Could I have micro movement right here to make sure that even though we have an issue, I slide to this one spot, now we're sound again, and I can still deliver the ball. So it's not just up front. That's the nature of the NFL. But we always look at it from everybody's involved.
It's exactly. It's not just up front. It's on the quarterback. The part that's been so alarming this year is that CJ, by rookie standards last year, was way ahead of the curve when it came to sensing the rush, the pocket movement, all of those little things. I thought he showed development in training camp and early in the season. It's just there have been some developments as the year has gone along where it looks like the poor pass protection is starting to fracture CJ's process. Some of the things he's doing, bailing out backwards out of the pocket, and really some of the sacks that he's taken in the last several games that I don't think he would have taken last year, that's where I start to worry that he's damaged in some regard, including if he doesn't feel confident in his ability to get rid of the ball. I think there's times where perhaps he's scrambling where previously maybe he would have tried to make a throw or gotten rid of it. It's all off. Everything's off. And to play the blame game is really, really tough with a quarterback, even though, look, CJ, he has owned those decisions, and he knows that there's certain decisions he's made that are textbook or by the book. Yeah, they're on him, but I think there's a source for it. It's like if you're trying to train somebody to be a good marksman, you can train him to be a really good marksman when everything's stable, but you put him on the back of a pickup truck on a dirt road full of potholes, it's a lot harder to be a good marksman. And I think CJ right now is shooting a sniper rifle from a raft that's floating down the rapids, and it's ended up affecting him when he's in calm waters as well. Because we've seen errant throws in the last few weeks from clean pockets. Going back to the Green Bay game, really, I think at the end of that game in the fourth quarter, when he threw to Tank for a throw that didn't help them at all on the sideline, where in a clean pocket, which he did have, he could have held on and probably come back across to his third read, John Mechie. He'd been getting smacked all game long. So this has been a season of that. It's nice that they're emphasizing pass protection in practice, as Bobby said. I would imagine they've been emphasizing that all season long. So I'll go back to the whole, hey, you didn't do it in the first 17 weeks. I don't know what you're hoping to accomplish in week 18, but I'm hoping for the best. We'll see. Hey, if you're new to the channel, I'm Seth Payne, played for the Texans the first 5 years of the franchise's existence. Like, subscribe, tell a friend. Everybody have a great weekend.